Hello, I'm Rachel from Echidna Sewing, and today I'm going to show you how to make a pillow insert or a cushion insert. This is what you'll need to create your pillow insert. You'll need a patchwork ruler, the tape measure, a rotary cutter. I'm using a purple thang today, some universal 80 needles. I'm using a woven cotton fabric, mainly because it's quite firm and it will hold the stuffing well and it can be plumped up easily, and a cutting mat. Of course, you need a sewing machine. I've got Rosanthe thread and it's filled the same colours in my bobbin. Today I'm stitching, just so that you know, with blue Rosanthe thread because it's better for film. I wouldn't normally stitch with a blue Rosanthe thread. I would use a thread that matches my fabric. In this case, it's a white. The last thing that you'll need is stuffing for your cushion, and I'll just grab this and show you. I'm recycling this one because you can see that this is actually ripped, so I'm going to take the stuffing out of this and use it to stuff my new cushion. Let's get started. So I'm making an insert for this cushion, which is quite a small cushion. Remember, the principles I teach you are exactly the same whether it's a square or whether it's a long rectangular cushion. There's a couple of tips. One of them is whatever the size your cushion is, you can add a couple of inches to it and that will make a plumper cushion. So let me show you how I measure. Let's get my trusty tape measure. So I'm going to measure the length and the width. So my cushion measures 9.5 by 5 3/4. That means for a plumper cushion like this, I'm going to add an inch to those sizes. So that means I need to cut 10.5 by 6 3/4, and that shape will be a rectangle. I'll need two pieces. So here my fabric is folded and I'm going to remove the selvage off this side. Just make a clean cut, throw that in the rubbish. And then my measure is 10.5 by 6 3/4. So the reason I use a patchwork ruler is because you can easily cut that size in 2 steps and you can read. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3/4 here, and 10.5 measure down the bottom. So just double check, 6 3/4 by 10.5. So that's just 2 cuts. 1, 2. So those are my 2 rectangles needed for stitching together my pillow insert. The next step is at the machine, but I will tell you I'm using a 1/4 inch foot on my machine. I'm going to put right sides together, and I will be stitching around here, 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 and here, and here, and leaving about a 3-inch gap for the stuffing. We'll clip the corners, stuff, and then hand sew the join together and we'll be done. Let me grab the sewing machine. Okay, I'm working on the NV50S today, and to start I've put the 1/4 inch foot on and I am decreasing my stitch length to 2. This is because a 2 stitch length is shorter and it's stronger, and it means it will hold the cushion stuffing really well. So I'm starting 2 inches from the end on one side and I'm going to stitch. As I near the end, I'll put my needle down and I'm going to lock. And that's going to give me a sharper corner. Then spin and sew my next side. So I've locked again on the second corner and I'm going to stitch around the other two to finish the sewing on the cushion. need to leave enough gap to stuff the cushion. So here it's about 1, 2, it's around 3 inches that I've left. And you can stitch this closed by machine or by hand. Just trim these threads. And so the corners are pointed when I turn the cushion inside out. I'm going to cut these on the diagonal here. 1, so just clipping my corners. 2, 3, 4. The next step is stuffing the cushion. So what I'm going to do is move the sewing machine out of the way and we'll get stuffing. Here's my pillow insert. So the next step is to flip it through to the right side. There's no need to neaten any of these edges, as once the stuffing is in there, no fraying is going to occur. I'll just poke it through. I grab my handy dandy little tool here, poke that through so you can see my edges are looking lovely, my corners, and I'll just flip this side through, and then I'll deconstruct some of my stuffing from the cushion. That's my 4th hole. Okay, so I would normally unpick this, but as this is already ripped, I'm just going to kind of keep it secure and pull out some of the stuffing and start pushing it into one end, to this end. I try and get the corners done first so it's firm, and so I'll do all 4 corners, and then you'll just do the middle. So this cushion, this one here is really plump. You don't have to use as much that much stuffing, so it's that plump. It can be a flatter cushion if you like. It really depends on your personal preference. If you want to, I'm checking to see if the corners are full, and they're not, so I'll push more into here and up to here. So I'm just using my fingers, my hand, to push the stuffing in. Okay, so that is pretty much, it's quite a flat cushion, this one. I want to show it to you as a different example. I have put the sewing machine away, but normally I would sew along here, but because I've got the blue thread, I'm going to go and use a machine that's got a different colour. So I would just sew again, using my 1/4 inch foot. I'd probably pin these closed or use the little clips. Sew along here, or you could hand stitch depending on what your preference is. Okay, so I have used echidna clips to seal the hole together, so let me take those off and show you. All I did was tuck these pieces in, that 1/4 inch seam, and firmly pull and clip. It's pretty easy. I find it easy. I find the clips easier than pins, so this is how I did it. And I'm going to slip stitch it closed. So I have my John James needles and a neutral coloured thread to do that. So I would just start here where this blue thread is. As I said earlier, I normally wouldn't stitch together this with a blue thread, but so you could see it. It's just really stitching this together to close the insert. Oops. And of course you could choose to do this on the sewing machine if you wanted to. I just thought I'd give you this option. And just making sure you're tucking that seam in prior to putting the stitch in so that it's not a raw edge that you're stitching closed, it's the folded edge. And of course this is the best option, slip stitching it closed, if you have a really a lot of stuffing in your cushion, because it's harder to hold it together under a machine. Okay, so I'll just knot so it doesn't come undone, and sew that back in to the seam. Come up here, trim, that's the cushion inner completed. Now I'm just going to stuff the cushion. So don't forget, I've made a small cushion here. You can use these same principles, so you can measure and then add an extra inch or 2 inches on if you want a plumper cushion. But you can do it for a square, for a rectangle, for a small cushion, for a large cushion. It's just as easy as that. And you can also use some recycling cushion inners if you don't have any extra stuffing at home, like I've done today. There you go. The pillow insert complete. Hope you have fun making these, and I'll see you again soon.